Since 2017, the Italian Wine Podcast has exploded, recently hitting 6 million listens. Support us by buying a copy of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0 or making a small donation. In return, we'll give you the chance to nominate a guest and even win lunch with Stevie Kim and Professor Attilio Scienza. Find out more at italianwinepodcast.com. Chin chin!
Welcome to Masterclass US Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the US market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests at the end of each episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us each week to learn more about the US market. Hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market. Today I'm thrilled to welcome Liz Tach to the Italian Wine Podcast. Dr. Liz Tach, MW, is a professor, wine writer, and consultant based in Napa and Sonoma, California. She also holds the position of president of the Wine Market Council, a nonprofit dedicated to providing forward-looking market research on US wine consumer buying habits, attitudes, and trends. Liz is also an award-winning author and educator specializing in wine business strategy, marketing, leadership and executive development, and wine lifestyle. She's published 9 books and over 200 articles. Incredible. Welcome to the show, Liz. It's so great to have you here.
It's a pleasure being here today.
Wonderful. So before we dive into today's discussion, Liz, about your new role with the Wine Market Council, tell us a little bit more about your background. What led you to become the first woman in California and the 7th woman in the U.S. to become a master of wine? That's so incredibly impressive. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about your story.
Oh, thanks, Juliana. Well, I actually fell in love with wine during college. I had a girlfriend take me to the Napa Valley to go wine tasting. And by the 3rd winery, I couldn't believe how beautiful the vineyards were, how wonderful the wine tasted. Being around such a beautiful scenery and with friends, and it was just fall in love with wine. And so from that point on, I actually started studying wine on my own, met my husband, turned him into a wine drinker, and then we started traveling the world together. So now I've been to almost all the major wine regions of the world in 75 countries. So wine's always been a passion since a young age, but my PhD is actually in human resource management. So I did work for 10 years in industry before transitioning to the university to be a professor of wine business and human resource management and leadership management. And then along the way, after I wrote my first wine book, I got recruited sort of by 2 MWs to apply for the program. And at that time, there were no women in California. In fact, on the whole West Coast who'd yet become an MW.
And what year was that, Liz?
That was 2006.
Okay, so not that long ago. In this century.
This century, you're right.
Yes.
Thanks, Juliana. That makes me feel better. Anyway, so 2006, and then it took 5 years, so I became an MW in 2011. And then I found out I was the first woman in California to become an MW, and the governor of the state of California, the legislature, gave me a nice big plaque, an award. And so that was great. And it's wonderful being an MW because it opens a lot of doors. You have this access to this incredible network of brilliant people around the world, and you just get a lot more opportunities too.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you remember some of those first wineries that you visited? I'm just curious about that trip because it sounds like it was so transformative.
Oh, yeah. So the one, I'll never forget it. The one I fell in love with wine was Beringer.
Oh, okay. Classic.
Standing there, we had done the cave tour, vineyards, and we had an incredible tour guide. I'll never forget her. She was so mesmerizing and engaging, and we were standing there drinking our wine, looking out over the vineyards, and at that time we were in that sort of old house there at Beringer, and I just thought, this is the world I want to live in.
And it came true, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing, Liz. And today we're going to focus our conversation on the Wine Market Council and your new role. And you mentioned you're part of the MW network and community, which brings so many incredible opportunities and resources. And now you're leading one of the leading market research companies with Wine Market Council. So we want to talk a little more specifically today to you about how wine companies can actually use the data and market research that the Wine Market Council generates to inform their marketing and sales plans. So our three key takeaways for today's masterclass and what we're really excited to learn from you are, number one, the most current and up-to-date resources for U.S. market research and data, and learn a little more about where Wine Market Council is pulling its data from. Number two, how to go about interpreting and deciphering market research and data. Also, as a doctorate, I'm sure, Liz, you've got some great tips about academia that can apply here. And then finally, number three, how to apply market research and data to a U.S.-focused sales and marketing plan, because, after all, we're here all to master the U.S. market. So let's just dive in. And first off, Liz, tell us a little bit more about the Wine Market Council, what the organization does, how membership works, and a little bit more about the focus of its work and research.
Yes, excellent, and great objectives, Juliana. So, so Wine Market Council was established in 1996 in Napa, California, and it's a nonprofit organization. And so we're a scientific nonprofit, and so we are set up. Our mission is to provide forward-looking research on the U.S. wine consumer. We focus on U.S. wine consumers, on their purchasing habits, their attitudes, and their trends. And so our members are wineries, growers, distributors, importers, trade associations, and affiliates. And affiliates might be universities, banks, media firms, and so forth. And I did want to just point out trade associations, because we have like Napa Valley Vintners, we have New York Wines, Wines of Washington, we have Wines of New Zealand, we have Wines of Germany, we have Wines of the Rhone in France, but we still don't have any associations from Italy. And so just putting out that little note there that we would love to welcome some Italian trade associations as members, because there's lots of benefits in terms of the research we provide. So every year we do 3 to 4 huge research studies on the U.S. market and mainly the U.S. consumer. Okay. And all that data is only shared with our members internally. Now, we do sort of high-level press releases and articles and presentations like this one, where we provide some of the high-level data. Right. But all the nitty-gritty detailed data is reserved for our members, because that's part of what they're paying for their membership. Of course. And then we also will even do customized data sorts for them as well. We do lots of webinars. We're going to be starting up our in-person conference again, which is once a year. It'll be in New York 1 year and in Napa the second year, and sort of back and forth. Everything is also taped and online, so if you can't attend that, you can always watch all the research, at your leisure. Right. And then what some of our larger wineries really appreciate is we make access, and the universities, we make access all of the big Excel files. So people who love to crunch numbers, they can do that as well. That's incredible. So it's really wonderful. We've been doing this research for 27 years now, so we have a huge database that people can dip into. And we asked our members, we just completed a membership survey, asking them, how are they using the data? And so I'll just share the top 3 ways that they are, the benefits sort of great. 92% of them say that they are using the market research we give them to help create their business, their marketing strategy, and their sales strategy. Yeah. So that's really what our intent is. Our intent is to help wineries sell more wine in the U.S. market. And that includes wineries from all over the world. So not just U.S. wineries. So like I said, anybody can be a member if you're in the global wine industry. Right. And for Italy, U.S. is the number 1 export market. So I'd imagine, again, there's so much value in this data. Yeah, Oh my gosh, Americans love Italian wine, and you know that, Juliana.
They sure do.
We're the number one wine we import into this country. Everybody loves Italian wine.
Of course, yeah.
And, part of what we're trying to do is we're trying to promote wine consumption, in a responsible fashion, because, wine is part of the good life.
Right.
And so that's part of what we do.
Yep. And that's so important today, right, Liz? Because, we're seeing statements coming out from the World Health Organization looking at alcohol being regulated the way tobacco is, and it's going to be coming more and more. And I think as an industry, we need to be promoting, moderate consumption and the lifestyle of drinking wine in a positive way as an industry, and getting that message out there more and more. I think it's only going to become more critical.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, we're recommending wine consumption in a moderate fashion, to help improve life, relationships, romance, food, all the wonderful things that wine can make better in life, but obviously in a very, responsible, drinking it responsible manner. Mm-hmm.
Of course. So tell us a little bit more, Liz, about some of these consumer studies that the Wine Market Council is publishing. Maybe talk to us a little bit about some of your recent findings, and also just a little bit about the process of how these studies are being conducted.
Yes, excellent question. So we basically, since we're member funded, we have a research committee that's made of members. People, say they want to be on the committee, and the committee meets twice a year. And what they do is they look at what's hot, like what are the hot trends, what are the things the wine industry really wants to know. And so they're the ones who select the 3 to 4 studies we do per year. And so then we actually use 75% of our funding to do research studies. And so one of the studies we've been doing since the very, very beginning, I call it the profile of the U.S. wine consumer. And we do it every 2 years, and we're doing it again right now. And we're sort of calling it a benchmark survey, a benchmark segmentation survey. So it tells you everything about the U.S. wine consumers, where they live, what kind of wine they like, what the occasions are they drink wine, how much money they spend on wine. And so it's this really great thing to just help you tap into what are the hot trends, what do consumers really want right now. And so that's our benchmark survey. We do that every 2 years. And
every 2 years.
Yeah. So then it's like whatever's hot. So for example, last year we did a survey on wine ingredient labeling, because it's going to be mandatory in the EU, but not yet in the US. So we're trying to figure out if US consumers want it. We also did one on multicultural consumers, how to connect more with all the Hispanic, Asian, Black Americans who are not drinking as much wine as white Americans. And so we want to make sure that we are, more into equality and reaching out and connecting with these consumers. This year, we did one on this whole, we call it the wine category shifting study. It's basically looking at, why are people drinking less wine? We know part of the reason is the wellness trend, but, what else is going on? And where are they shifting to? If they're shifting away from wine, what are they drinking instead? Are they drinking juice and tea, or are they drinking beer? Because people are shifting away from alcohol in general.
Right.
Yeah. And then what can the wine industry do about it? So that's what that big study's going on right now.
I'm very curious to hear the findings of that one. That kind of leads me to the next question I had for you, Liz, is that, we've seen the research and the stats around wine consumption declining globally, and especially in the U.S. market with the rise of RTDs and spirits. But also just with people drinking less as one of the key factors. So I know you're doing that study right now, but based on previous experience and your own expertise, what do you think are some of the most important and relevant findings as it relates to declining consumption of wine in the U.S. market?
Right. So what we've seen is for the last 2 years, volume of wine has gone down. That means the sales volume. So people are buying less wine. But until just recently, they were spending more on wine. So even though volume was declining, the wine industry was still making a good amount of money. So people weren't that concerned until just this year. And I think what happened this year is inflation just really hit people.
Yeah.
So what we're starting to see is people spending less on wine now.
Right.
That sort of downshifting in price, trading down, we call it, is happening. But if you look at the general numbers, and I always like to say, wine's been around for 8,000 years. It's not going away.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
And if I look, we have charts showing U.S. wine consumption over the last, since the 1930s. And you are always going to see these sort of ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the 1990s, we went through a period where wine consumption went down and then came back up again. So I sort of think we're going through one of those again.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, our liters per capita is 11.
Okay.
11 liters per capita. And last year, it was 11.3 liters. So it's not like we've dropped a lot, So, and this is a number that I think people need to keep in mind, is that 33% of all Americans drink wine. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
33%. And that's, I'm sorry, those are adult Americans.
Right, of course.
So when we look at the numbers there, that's 79 million Americans aged 21 and over drink wine.
Yeah.
79 million Americans, that's bigger than the whole country of France.
That's huge.
France only has 67 million people, and that's including kids who can't drink wine. So, that's why we're the largest wine market in the world. Is, even though it's only 33% of Americans drink wine, that's 79 million people. That's like a nation right there. So that's something I like to say, to just keep it in perspective. But Juliana, the numbers that are bothering us are the younger generation. So when we break those numbers down by generation, if we look at all 79 million wine drinkers then, and we just look at that, only 25% of that total are Gen Z and younger millennials, the people in their 20s.
Right.
You have 33% who are older millennials. So keep in mind, older millennials are now in their 30s and early 40s.
Right. That's my demographic. We like to call ourselves the geriatric millennial.
Yeah. And I just had a conversation with somebody today. They're like, Liz, wine is a lifestyle thing. When you're really young in your 20s, you're out drinking beer and, experimenting with cocktails.
Yep.
And it's oftentimes not till you get in your 30s and you're maybe married with a mortgage and kids that you start drinking more wine.
And you start staying at home more too, right? And instead of going out to the bars, you're hosting dinner parties and, you're drinking a bottle of wine with your partner on a Friday evening. They're just the lifestyle, like you said, exactly. You're aging into the category in a different way. Yeah, and I totally agree.
Wine to Wine Business Forum. Everything you need to get ahead in the world of wine. Supersize your business network. Share business ideas with the biggest voices in the industry. Join us in Verona on November 13 to 14, 2023. Tickets available now at winetowine.net.
So it's not that bad, but here's the slightly concerning thing is that 38% or almost 40% of wine consumers are baby boomers or older. So we're talking 60s and older. So, and everybody's living longer, so that's good. But, we get older, people do drink less alcohol. So all of these things are sort of like a warning sign to the U.S. wine industry and anybody selling wine here.
Right.
And it's not just happening here, it's happening all over the world. Is that, hey, we need to wake up and pay attention to this.
Yeah.
We need to understand what's going on. We need market research to tell us, what strategies we can use to continue to connect with the consumers we have and to attract new consumer segments.
Yeah, absolutely. And you gave a great presentation earlier this year in January at Unified about some of the things that the wine industry and wine companies can do to connect with new consumers, whether it's transparency around their practices with sustainability and sustainability meaning social sustainability and how they're treating their employees, and also environmental sustainability, what they can do with new packaging, what they can do with marketing and digital. So I mean, there are solutions out there, right? And I think it's
Yes.
just about continuing to encourage our whole industry to be thinking about how we're talking to the next generation and really understanding and recognizing that they're much different than the boomers. They grew up with technology and a cell phone, glued to their eyes, and we've got to treat them very differently than we've marketed to previous generations.
You are exactly correct.
It's definitely a shifting tide, but opportunity as well. So, as you mentioned earlier in our conversation, that I think 90-something% of the Wine Market Council members are applying the research from the Wine Market Council to their U.S. sales and marketing plans. So, talk to us a little bit about how they're doing that. Like, how do you see them directly implementing the work you're doing into their sales and marketing plans?
Yes. So I just had one of our member companies tell me today that our multicultural study we did on how to attract multicultural consumers completely changed how they marketed a couple of their wine brands. They changed the wording, they changed the advertising, the images, the graphics, the messaging.
Wow.
Yeah, all based on because what we did is we went out and interviewed a lot of people in those segments and tried to understand more about what it is they were looking for. You need to understand the words that people use. You need to understand the values that they hold, or the occasions, when they're interested in drinking wine. So that's what we do with our research. So another example is this is a trade association. We did a study on sustainability 2 years ago and how it was becoming more and more important. And they went and completely in their state started. They did not yet have a sustainability program in their state, so they started one, and now they have almost 50% of their wineries that are getting certified sustainable. So now they can put it on their labels and talk about it on their websites and talk about it with consumers. So they basically adopted a sustainability strategy as a state, based on our research.
Oh, that's incredible. That's huge. Exciting to see the research applied, in those tangible ways. That's amazing.
I know. We like to get testimonials. In fact, we're out trying to get more of those now.
I know it's important to always show the work that's being done and how it's impacting. That's really exciting. So, you have a lot of trade associations, winery members as well. For our listeners who maybe they're newer in their positions in wine marketing and sales, or they're newer to the wine industry, how might you suggest going about taking a report like the Wine Market Council might publish on multicultural marketing for the wine consumer and digesting that, like just some tangible tips and advice? Because I think for some, maybe I'm speaking for myself too here, sometimes data can feel a little bit daunting if you didn't have a statistics degree or an MBA. So just talk to us a little bit about some of your tips and tools for digesting this information.
Yeah, well, and Julianne, you're bringing up a really good point, because sometimes, the worst thing you can do actually is just do a data dump and say, here's the data.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, great. So now what? What do I do with it? So What we're trying to do on our webinars, and we just started this deliberately this last month, and this last webinar we did, where I said to the presenters, okay, I need each of you to come up with 3 key takeaways or action items based on your data. So, and I did a rehearsal with them, a dry run, and we put their takeaways on the slides. And so,
that's great.
So they basically said, and the things that they said, I thought were brilliant. One of them said, we had the Curtis Mann. He's the main. He's also an MW. He's one of my students. I coached him in the MW.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, he's the head buyer of all alcohol for all Safeway Albertsons in the United States. So,
wow, that's a big job.
And yeah, he said that they're just starting to see consumers trading down in price point in wine in the last 2 months. And he said he gave 3 takeaways. One, now is not a good a time to take a price increase. He said, that's one high recommendation. Don't do it right now. You should have already done it, last year. Number 2, he goes, more and more consumers are looking for the organic or sustainability, the transparency. They want to know how the wine was made, what's in the bottle. They want to know more about calories and carbohydrates. And
Right.
and he said you need to figure out a way to give them that information, either on a QR code or on the label or some way. He goes, it's silly because wine is actually relatively low calorie, like a 5-ounce glass of white wine.
It is, yeah.
120 calories and like 4 carbs, and red wine's 100 and maybe 40 calories and 5 carbs. So, it's actually really low, but we don't communicate that. And almost all wine is actually made with very few ingredients. Now, there are some exceptions, of course, but for the most part, especially small family producers, they're making their wine in a very natural fashion, but they're not communicating that.
Right.
So he was like, tell the consumer more about what's in the bottle, how you're making it, and so forth. And then the last thing he said was innovation. The wine industry needs to get more attractive labels, more attractive bottles, even new wine categories, like more non-alcoholic wines that taste good.
Right. Co-ferments, right? Co-ferments, I know, are coming back in vogue, and piquettes and some other styles that are lower in alcohol.
Exactly. Anything that can make wine stand out, using some of the innovation tactics we see in spirits, because spirits does that so well.
Right.
More wine cocktails, there's tons of beautiful wine cocktails around the world, but nobody talks about them.
And those used to be popular, right? I mean, before my time, but I heard, those were a thing like in the late 80s and early 90s.
Right. Well, repackage. So all good ideas come back around again. Repackage the wine cocktail in a cool, sexy way.
Right. I love that idea.
Compete with those RTDs, the ready-to-drink cans and spirits cocktails, So,
and there's some great brands out there doing that, like
there are a few.
Paloma, and there's a few, but
we need more.
We need more. We need them like in stadiums of games and arenas and concerts. We need them in the right occasions too, where there's mass consumption, right? So
exactly.
I love seeing, I think I went to a basketball game last year at the new Chase Center. I love that I was able to get wine in a can instead of drinking, a beer.
Oh, it's so wonderful. And consumers like it too.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's just an example of key takeaways coming out of the research. So, and we're trying to do more of that. The other thing that, since, I'm new to this job, I've only been in it 2 months. I did a big member survey to find out what the members wanted and the benefits. I was trying to find, okay, what are you doing with the data? And that's how I found out what they were doing with the data. But they suggested we do more infographics, and I love that idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. An easy way to digest data that makes sense to people. I think we're going to start doing that too. We haven't I don't think we've done that. At least I haven't found it. And believe me, I've gone through files and files, 25 years of data.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like you're looking at ways to make the data that you're collecting more digestible for members, putting it into formats where, you have experts like Curtis, breaking down their takeaways and really making it more tangible, and then visuals, which I think are so key. The way we digest information now in this digital era is so visually driven. So that's exciting to see some of those changes that you're making.
And we hire top research firms to do these studies too. So they're very, very rigorous, very scientific. So we get them to help present the data too. And then we have partnerships. We partner with Nelson. So, in fact, they were on our last webinar. We partner with SipSource and other sources of data, because we just do the U.S. wine consumer.
Right.
But we also, because there's a lot of data out there. So what we're trying to do, I had one of our members contacted me yesterday and say, Liz, can you just put everything all into one 10-minute presentation? All of those different numbers and everything, from all the different studies. And I'm like, well, sure, I guess I can. We can do that at a high level, because, people want to know how many millions of cases of wine were sold in the U.S. each year, and how many billions of dollars were made. And, we have all that data from our partnerships, so we easily share that.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Well, Liz, it's been great speaking with you, and I want to make sure we've got time in our episode to do our rapid fire quiz that we do at the end of every episode. to really help our listeners better understand the U.S. market. So try your best, please, to answer these questions in one sentence or less. So question number one, what is your number one tip for mastering the U.S. wine market?
Number one tip, get to know the U.S. wine consumer and be clear on your business strategy.
Great advice. Fantastic. Number two, what is something you might have told your younger wine professional, because I know you've had a couple of different professions, self about the U.S. market and wine?
Network more. Never forget that the global wine industry is really a family, and it's all about relationships.
I love that, definitely. And then finally, because so many of us travel for our jobs, and I know you mentioned you'll be in New York soon for the Wine Market Council event, and I'm sure for other things too. What's your favorite travel hack when you're traveling for work?
The 15-minute power nap.
I love it. That's a good one. For me, it can't be more than 15 minutes because then I won't wake up. So it's got to be short.
It has to be short.
But I agree.
It has to be short. And you know, Einstein used to take 15-minute power naps. So you and I are in good company.
I love to hear that. And Liz, just while we were talking about, wine as a lifestyle, I did pull up the quote from Robert Mondavi that Karen McNeil included in one of her recent newsletters. When wine is drunk moderately and intelligently, it's part of gracious living. And I think, that's the message. Hopefully we can continue getting out there through the great work you're doing at the Wine Market Council and other organizations. And, I think just keep spreading the word, right? So much of it is that.
Exactly. I love that quote. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Well, Liz, thank you so much again for joining us on the Italian Wine Podcast today. How can our listeners connect with you?
Several different ways. So the easiest way is to go to the Wine Market Council website, okay? WINE, wine, and then market, and then council, all lowercase, .com. So we are listed as a .com. And you can connect with me there. Or, of course, you can email me as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you again, Liz. It was so great to have you here today.
All right. Thank you, Juliana. Excellent interviewing on your part.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.